Hi, I'm John Lewis, and this is André Pederneiras. On tape 4 today, we'll be working on over 30 new techniques, both vale tudo and competition as usual. We're going to be working on different techniques from takedowns to mounts to passing the guard, the back, and so on. We're working on conditioning drills, vale tudo and competition, and we're also going to work on some tool sharpening techniques. We're going to check in with Nick, One Kick Blumgren. As always, Igor Zinoviev will be here with us today, showing us some techniques. We will be covering tool sharpening and conditioning with the students at JSEC. And while you're stretching out, check out my new music video.
Maybe 3 miles wide. I'm gonna lock love and deep inside. I find a little hole I can call my space. Gonna be a long time till I show my face. You see, it's been a long time, and I'm not gonna waste my time. I'm gonna drive real fast, maybe till I'm dead. Or I see the little bird is spinning around my head. I'm just here to tell you, baby, everything is gonna be fine. Cool heart, bad attitude. Cool heart. Get a new job, maybe rule the world. Not gonna waste my time on those silly girls. Get out of my way, cause I kill that wheel. And I ain't gonna stop till I get my feel. It's been a long time since I delivered a blow penetrating the sky. They're not gonna take me down this time, baby. These are the things going through my mind. I'm just here to tell you, baby, everything is gonna be fine. Cool heart, bad attitude. Cool heart. Cool heart, bad attitude. Cool heart.
Let's start off with this takedown here. My right knee hits the floor. My arms come around both of his legs like a double, but I hook my left leg around his right, taking him down. Once again, my right knee hits the floor. My arms go around his legs, hook with my left leg around his right, lifting his foot, taking him down. And in slow motion, I step in, driving to my right knee. My body's close and tight to his. My arms are around his legs. My left foot hooked around his right leg, and I'm going to lift it and drive forward and take him down. In defense of technique number 1, as I shoot in, Andre's arm comes in front of my face. He sprawls out, controlling my leg and dropping his weight on my back, going behind. Once again, his arm's in front of my face. He's sprawling out. See him holding my leg. As I come in, his arm cross faces me, keeping distance. He drops his weight on me and sprawls his legs out so I can't control him, and see his left arm control my leg as he runs around behind. See it fast. Okay, I'm controlling Andre's arms so he can't hit me. My feet are on his hips and my knees are keeping distance between us both. My right leg kicks to the face and then shoots all the way through as I pull him into the triangle. I pull his arms forward, pushing his arm across, grabbing his head and extending my hips. Once again, holding his arms, my feet are on the hips. I kick to the face. As I shoot through at the same time that I pull arms forward, my triangle comes around, controlling his head, and there it is. See, I'm pulling his arm across my body to complete the choke. Once again, I'm controlling his arms. He's going to want to take those out and hit me, but my feet are keeping distance and my knees are keeping distance. As I kick to the face the first time, the second time he's kind of thinking of his face, and I shoot my leg all the way through, extending my hips very high, figure 4 on my legs, triangling, and choking, and there he submits. Once again, I'm pulling his arm across the body. My right leg is choking one side of his neck. His arm chokes his other side of his neck. Pulling his head downwards, lifting my hips. Okay, this triangle defense is good. Once I put the triangle on, Andre postures straight up. He has to control my hips, puts his weight on his right foot, and his head straight up. He turns his knee into my stomach. My feet pop open. Takes his right arm around, and he's prepared to pass the guard. Once again, so I apply the triangle. Right away, Andre postures, lifting his head straight up to the sky, puts his hands on my hips to control my hips. His right foot comes up, starts turning inwards as he lifts his head, keeping his posture strong. My feet pop open, his arm comes around, controlling both legs, and he's prepared to pass. Let's break it down in slow motion. So the triangle is applied. As soon as this happens, Andre's going to posture his body straight up to the sky, lifting his head up, looking up. This makes it hard to complete. See, both hands are on my hip there, controlling my hip. His right foot comes up, his right arm is in the hole. He pushes down on my hips as he turns his right knee inwards and lifts his head at the same time. This is what pops the feet open. Now he could go around from there, but what he's going to do this time is take his arm, come around, control both legs, and prepare for a different pass. In this guard passing technique, I'm throwing a couple of shots to throw Andre off. My right arm goes to his knee, my left hand to the floor, and I'm going to jump over his legs, pushing his legs out of the way, and landing on him with my shoulder. My right arm comes around his head, and back into side control. From your knees, it's easier to see, so let's try that. My left hand to the floor, My right hand's on his knee. My head comes to this side of his body, opposite of the hand that's on his knee, and I jump over his legs. I'm controlling his legs. I'm pushing him out of my way, dropping all my weight on him. From here, I can either mount or go back to a side control, like so. Let's see it in slow motion. So I'm throwing a couple shots in the beginning, just keeping the moment going, keeping the guy defending. My hand's going to go on his knee. My left hand's going to go on the floor. But really, this would happen real suddenly. You throw a couple shots, and then you just dive over, like so. Notice I pushed his leg to the floor, so he couldn't catch me with it as I jumped over. At this point, I can choose to either mount or whatever I want to do. Say in the situation, I go back to side control with my right arm under his head, shoulder applying pressure, my left arm controlling his hips. Okay, in defense of this technique, André knows that I'm going to go for this technique. So his right arm is on my head, and he pushes me toward the side that I jump at the exact time that I jump. Once again, as I get ready to set up for the technique, he puts his hand on my head, waits for me to jump. When I jump, he pushes me that way, and I lose my balance. This is solely based on him knowing the technique and understanding that I'm going for it. If he didn't know, he wouldn't be able to defend this so simply. Once again, once I put my hand in this position, he's very aware of what I'm going to do. So his hand's on my head, he waits for me to jump. The moment I jump, my base is off, he pushes me off, hips out slightly, and reverses the position. Let's do that fast this time. Here's one of my favorite mounting techniques. Andre's arm comes between my legs, and he climbs through. His right leg is between both of my legs, okay? His left arm is going to clean my arm, get them both out of the way so I can't defend. His left leg comes around over my knee. Any move I make, I get mounted. Once again. Okay, his arm comes through my legs. Notice his right knee come between the middle, keeping them separated. His other arm moves my arm out of the way, hugging my body, and he steps over with his other leg and mounts. In slow motion. His right arm there, changing his position. He's giving me freedom to turn sideways there. His other arm separating my legs. As he climbs through, his right knee comes between, replacing his arm. Now watch his left arm. His left arm is going to move my arm out of the way. This is so I can't defend with it. Now it's just kind of stuck up there in the air. And his left leg comes around above my knee. Very important, above my knee. Keeping it nice and tight. If I straighten my body out or try to adjust out of there, boom, I'm mounted. To defend that great position, what Andre's going to do is bring his arm inside so he has the freedom to go to his knees. See, his left foot stays hooked. He controls my right arm with his. Knee comes in, and he rolls. Let's get another shot of that. Okay, so I'm under his arm here. I'm going for the mount. He reaches his arm inside, goes up to his knee, leaving his left foot hooked, controls my right arm, and rolls. In slow motion. So I'm passing in the mount. My arm is under his arm. My knees are around. I'm waiting for him to make that move. But he doesn't. His arm comes inside. Instead, he goes the other direction, coming up to his knees. He keeps his left foot hooked around my leg so I don't have very much freedom. At the same time, he controls my right arm. His right knee comes in. His base is under me now, and I'm easily rolled. Okay, let's talk briefly about the mount. When I'm mounted on somebody in a real fight, the guy's trying to get me off of him. Okay, and how he's going to do that is using his hips to bridge to make me lose my balance. Okay, like we talked about earlier, if you can control the guy's head, you can keep him from bridging. So what I want you to talk about right now is reaching under his head, pulling his head forward as you strike. Okay, this puts him on the offense. For one, he can't bridge. He can't bridge when his head's off the ground because he needs his head to bridge. Okay, so I hold his head forward, and I strike from this position like this, keeping control of the guy. Okay, in defense here, to get out of these grapevines, André straightens his legs out, puts them both flat on the floor so I can get my grapevines in. Suddenly popping his hips up, bringing one leg in, pushes me off to one side with that leg, steps over, and applies the ankle lock. Once again, I'm grapevine. Straightens his legs out, puts them flat, leaves them flat so I can't put my hooks in. Then suddenly pops up, pushing off my hips with his two hands, bringing just one knee to the hole. Then he's going to kind of move me off to one side with that leg, steps over with the other leg, reaches under my foot for the ankle lock. In slow motion, I'm grapevine, straightens his legs out first, then puts them flat on the floor. At this point, I'm trying to reach back in and get my grapevines in, but he leaves them down until he's actually ready to pop up, and all of a sudden he does it. One big sudden movement, pops his hips up, drops his hips, his arms are still extended, holding my hips in the air. His right leg comes in, then he's going to push me off to one side as he steps over with his left foot, reaches underneath, applies the ankle lock, and there it is. Okay, so I'm behind this guy. I want to put him down. I want to flatten him out to get the optimum control. Okay, what I'm going to do first of all, lean forward, put one hand underneath his arm, grab around his wrist. My feet are going to straighten out. My hips are going to thrust forward, and I'm going to straighten my arm out here as well to help break his balance, like so. Okay, at this point, I'm keeping my feet up under his legs, keeping his legs off the ground a bit, which makes it hard for him to get back up. If I want to strike from here, hands on the floor, I strike with the pointy part of my elbow, right here, as opposed to going downwards. I strike this way, my hands, palms facing inwards. I strike to the back of the temple area here, or are they behind the ear? These are good positions from this situation. Like so here. Okay? Sometimes you can take your hands off the ground, you have leverage too. You want to punch. Because you can keep yourself up with here, with this part of your body. If he's back on his knees a little bit, you want to soften him up or something, you also can strike from here as well. You sit up on him, like so, you just drop downwards on the back of the neck. Like so. Reach underneath, kick him out. Here. Okay, keep his legs up off the ground. Okay, another situation here. I'm behind André here. I'm just going to demonstrate a leg lock from this position. It's very effective. Okay, he reaches through and he grabs around my leg. I have one leg between two of his. He hooks it real tight so that it's stuck in here now. Okay, he rolls over his shoulder and he pushes me away with his legs. Make distance. Okay, now my foot is stuck between his thighs. He's holding my ankle to his body, tight here, squeezing his legs real tight, and as he lifts his hips, the pressure is against my knee. Okay, once again, I'm behind André here. He wants to put me in a leg lock. One leg is between two of his legs. He reaches through with his right arm. My left leg is in there. Behind my leg, and to secure it, he puts his own hand around his own leg. This makes it impossible for me to pull my leg back out. I'm in a very awkward situation. As he rolls over his shoulder, he pushes me away with his legs. Okay? He's holding my ankle tight to his body. His legs are tight around my thighs. And as he thrusts his hip forward, the pressure's on my knee. Okay, today we're going to work on some tool sharpening again. Today we're going to work on defending the sweep. Okay? The sweep is when the guy tries to turn you over, reverse the position, and end up from the bottom to the top. The same way that when we talked about in previous tapes and during the mount and such, that the most important thing is keeping your position, same thing when you're passing the guard, okay? André wants to pass Tony's guard, but Tony wants to sweep André and end up in a top position or reverse the position, okay? So André has to know that he wants to pass the guard. If he feels that he's going to pass the guard, he'll continue. But if he feels that something's very vulnerable or that he may lose his position, he's going to forget what he's doing and he's going to maintain his base and keep his top position. Here's one way we can do this. Tony's going to slowly start moving to sweep André. Watch André's arms as he posts out, okay? He puts his arms into the ground and he pushes into the ground. You see the ground wrinkling here, okay? He's pushing into the ground very strong. If he makes his base weak, right, Tony will move his arm and he'll sweep, okay? Good. So André will end up getting turned over. That's fine. Okay, so what has to happen here is he drives his arms into the ground very strong and very rigid, so it's hard to pull it forward, for one. Okay, now what happens if, wait 1 second, what happens if he moves his arm out of the way? André has to use another limb to keep himself up. So this time he controls his arm, and André's going to use his leg to defend. Okay? But now Tony has another idea from here, so Tony might go for his leg here. So André has to change again. André changes to defend. His right hand is facing out now, and tries to get his position back again. Okay? So it's kind of confusing, but let's see how it looks at about 20% speed, just so you can see how the posting is. Both of you just change naturally as it happens. Go ahead. Slowly change. Keep going. All right. Okay. Now, come back over here for a second, guys. Watch this. Turn more sideways for these guys to see. As he lifts, Tony lifts his legs, André's legs, and André's going to cross his feet, make his weight very heavy over here. Okay, lift. Okay, this puts a lot of his weight in his bottom half here. It kind of puts it all into one area instead of distributed it out. This is going to make him a lot more heavy. He's going to be feeling out with his arms and riding around. Okay. Next thing he can do, he'll put his foot. Tony controls an arm. He puts his foot out. Okay, just until he's free. Okay, he puts his other arm up. He's facing with his backhand. Frees his arm. Crosses his feet again. Okay, it's kind of confusing, but let's watch this over and over with the students trying it. On swimming with the legs this time. This helps you develop your open guard, so you're not always stuck to having to have a closed guard. When you can open your guard and do more things, you can open up more attacks. Okay, so this is a good drill for this. Steve's going to help us out today. Go outside first. Okay, slowly. He's going outside one at a time. It takes a little coordination. He's going outside. And notice the important part of this to make this work is your hips. You're going to feel that you have a real problem doing it at first because your hips aren't moving. He's also leaving his head up, which helps him think about attacking and also helps him when it helps a good ab workout. Okay, so he starts picking up the speed. Watch his hips, side to side. Okay, good. And then he starts going the other direction slow. See, his hips are always moving. And he picks the speed up. Okay, now stop. As he does this, if he turns towards me right where he is, just notice what this is good for. It's hard to get control of him. If he goes the inside as well. He's always working his feet. Look at it. It's like hands. And if I get a hold of something, he works it. Okay? Look at that. It's like hands. That's a good drill to help you learn to have an open guard. Try, guys. Here's a conditioning drill that will enhance stamina, build shoulder strength, and should be used with other conditioning drills. It kind of builds and fatigues your shoulder.
And we are ready to rock in our first match of the evening. Lewis very patient, both preferring the stand-up style right now. John, who do you think will make the first move?
There you go. Handsome.
Lewis made it.
Side control already.
Take your time. Take your time.
Quick move. John Lewis trying to make some short work here. Joe Hill Galavera. The first move so critical in extreme fighting. If you know how to parlay it, you're in great shape.
A very low kick, glanced past. As it went past, he dove in. Now watch the way he advances his legs up to the head to get more pressure on the chest.
John, a good time to explain to viewers a mount and a guard, the difference between them and how you can finish with them.
Well, he can mount from here because he can drop his right knee over. He's getting up high. He's putting pressure on him. He's kind of cooking him a little. And there's the
mount, a position from the top, a very dominant spot.
And you see how he did it? He did it off a big bouncy pace. Oh, there's arms. Arms look really dangerous.
Tries to complement his leg strength and his positioning with some chopping shots. And you see the spinning attempt of Galavera to wriggle free from trouble.
Terrific mount here. High, he breaks when he has to. Just
Use the fence to his advantage.
Young guys, keep working.
For Galavera to go.
Good.
You see, he's dodging it. He's got to try to bridge it, and he knows it. He's got to slow it down to speed it up.
And a high mount here, as you talked about. Lewis on top, pounding away. 2 minutes in. We'll see if the clock becomes a factor in this first phase. 3 phases, 5 minutes each with a 1-minute rest. But now, if you're John Lewis, you don't want to see a second phase. You're already off to a great start.
Now, guys.
I'm looking
working,
at the
guys. Keep
time,
working. Come on.
and I'm looking at the position. You know who's working harder here. Just the way the left knee starts sneaking up on Lewis, I have a tendency to think he's going to start running on those arms.
You remember.
Halfway through the first phase, as D'Oliveira just pounds away, and Lewis tries to make the strength of D'Oliveira work against him. Exactly right by Lewis. There's more aggression in him this time than in his other two extreme fighting outings. This style sets up well for him.
Yeah, he's ready to play this game. You can see it. And I don't know what he holds in his future, but Carson Gracie Jr. and draw back there.
Getting interesting here in the first phase. 2 minutes to go. In the past, we've seen John Lewis able to cook, as John Purdy says, ride the time. But with the time winding down in this phase, he may become a gambler. After all, he's from Las Vegas. Why not?
Very good. Yeah, he's still trying to cook him. He's really not putting anything but a big left hook to the ribs. What do you think of the power of that punch, Dave?
He's chopping with it. It's deceiving, I think. It's a sneaky type of a punch.
How's it sound? What's its impact sound like to you?
Sounds like pain.
I noticed some reddening on the back of Joe Heel now. Well, if he turns around, he's really foolish.
And there it is, as John said. A turnaround, you see Lewis from the top. And D'Oliveira trying to rally here. With a little more than a minute to go in the first phase.
With 1 minute and 8 seconds left, Lewis is in prime position to finish this fight. Notice how he's crossing his ankles and uncrossing them. He felt safer when he turned back to the mount.
John Lewis reacting to the block in his hand. Trying for the finish here. Knowing that he can't cook for 15 minutes. He has adjusted well to the strategies and the new style here of extreme fighting, and he's becoming more aggressive, more quickly, and those shots are adding up.
He's becoming a much more skilled fighter than we've seen before. His training's working really well. Oh, that's a lame move. You can't throw your legs up like that. It's just going to get broken.
Chopping shots here by John Lewis as time winding down.
Sounds like
this phase, will we see a reprieve for Joe Hill D'Oliveira, who has been in big trouble throughout the opening phase. But he may get a chance to start it over again. He may just last out this initial assault by John Lewis. It's been an excellent opening phase for undefeated extreme fighter John Lewis.
The beginning of a new era. Let's see how slow he gets up. Very frustrated. They fought their hearts out.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is a draw.
No judges. Nobody tells these guys who wins. Only they do.
This is one of the many judo drills used to develop foot sweeps. Basically, we're just walking together, and before I step, he catches my foot and sweeps it. Again, it's kind of like you're dancing. You're stepping together, you will follow each other's step, trying to find the balance, and as I plant my foot, he catches it and sweeps. There are many different drills in judo to help develop this sweep. But for this one here, it's nice and basic. It's good to start off with. It helps you understand when you should sweep. Notice as we step together, as my foot comes forward, it doesn't quite get planted, and he takes it from under me, and I go down. Do this over and over. Okay, this time I'm trying the offensive technique, and watch how André defends it. He reaches through my leg, grabbing it, and taking me down. So we're doing the same kind of dance together in the beginning. Okay, we're working together, and he reaches in deep. Before I get the sweep, pulls my leg from under me, and does a single. Once again, Starting out the same way. It's just a drill. You work together. So as I go 1, and here on this step here, he's already going underneath before the sweep even arrives. Catches my leg. He's still holding his grip up top with his right hand. He's going to pull my leg from under me and do a single. Okay, we're going to do a sweep from a very offensive guard position, which basically you're sitting up, have 1 foot underneath my leg, and 1 straight in between his legs. At this point, my left hand's going to go inside, under his arm, grabbing his belt, and I'm going to move my hip with my right hand on the floor. This throws his base off. Okay, I move my hip, and he falls forward, grabbing his arm, controlling it, and I'm going to roll to my shoulder and head, lift my leg and sweep and mount. Once again. Notice my foot's underneath my other leg. It's across. I'm sitting very comfortably here. I'm reaching for his belt with one hand. And my other hand's going to post off. I move my hip. As I lift my leg, I kick him over, roll into my shoulder, and I mount. And with Andre, I'm sitting between his legs. Keeping my body real close. This is very offensive. He has to watch his positions here. Controlling his belt, move my hip, control the arm, lift the leg and mount. Once again, my feet are between his legs. My left arm comes under his arm, not over his arm, under his arm, controlling his belt. This gives me greater control. I stay nice and close to him. My chest is nice and close to him. There's a lot of different positions you can do from here, sweeps and different various attacks. But one of them is this, moving your hip out of the way. When you move your hip out of the way, the guy's body's not leaning on you anymore. He kind of falls to the floor. And as he falls to the floor, he needs that left hand of his to control or post with. You control that arm, and you just roll to your shoulder and head, and he has no way to stop himself from rolling. So it's pretty much of an easy mount if you can get that position. In defense of this sweep reversal, what Andre does is takes his left arm and he puts it in the hole, blocking my leg from going through, okay? His other leg comes around and he passes the guard. Once again, as I go from my position, his left arm comes in under my leg. Now I can't move. He frees his left leg and passes the guard to the opposite side. Slow motion. I reach to grab for his belt. Immediately, his hand comes inside, right onto the floor, kind of strong arms it. His left leg comes around, and as he puts his weight and pushes forward, he passes the guard, and there we are. In this pass the guard technique, Andre wants to put pressure on my solar plex area. He grabs both lapels and puts pressure downwards. His elbow is locked. When I pull him forward, the locked elbow makes it impossible for me to pull him forward. He controls my wrist, keeping my kimono tight around my wrist, and pins it to my stomach. Then he stands up with his left foot first, and this is so that I don't attack it with the arm that's controlled. Okay, he switches his arms, switches his grips, keeping tension on my arm. His right elbow is going to come inside the hole there and put slight pressure on the leg as well. Okay. Now he's going to push my other leg down his leg, and he's going to reach inside and come back down to his knees. So both my legs are up on his shoulder. See him pass my lapel across here? He passes the lapel across. His thumb is inside. His other hand's going to come around under my butt and lift me up, stack me up, put a slight choke on me there. But really, he wants to pass the guard. So he's going to put his chest down real heavy, and he passes. Let's see that again. So once again, he's going to put pressure on my solar plex area. Grab both lapels at once. Palm down, elbow locked. Make sure he has his posture. Then he grabs my sleeve. Grabs it tightly and pins it to my stomach. Stands up with the same leg first that he's controlling my arm, so I don't attack his leg. Good posture, head up. Pulling, putting tension on my sleeves, switching arms. His right elbow comes in there and puts pressure on the inside of my leg. His left hand pushes my knee downwards. Okay. As he pushes it downwards, this time you see him step back. He reaches under my leg, both arms. Comes down to his knees again. He passes the lapel across, nice and deep, thumb inside. Okay. His right foot comes up. His hand comes underneath, grabs the back of my pants or my belt, and stacks me up. His left arm is choking. As he puts his pressure on his chest, my legs just come around and he passes. Sit in slow motion. So once again, he's controlling my chest with two lapels in one hand. His palm is down. He grabs my sleeve and he pins it to my stomach. Like so. It's important here, his posture, his head is up. His posture is nice and strong. He stands up with his left foot first because my arm is controlled on that side so I can't attack him. Okay, he switches his sleeves. Notice how straight his body is. He's pulling real tightly. He's keeping my body up off the ground, keeping me uncomfortable. Now his right arm's going to come in there, just put a little tension on the feet. Not really to open him, just put a little tension on the feet. His left hand really does the work. He pushes it straight down his leg, pushing at the knee. Not the pants, not grabbing the pants, but his open hand pushing at the knee. Okay, see him step back a little bit. Both arms simultaneously go inside and around. Brings his arms together to get my knees by his head. Okay, and he comes down to his knees. At this point, you see him changing his grip with his hands. He's pulling one tight. His foot comes up. You're going to see his right arm come around. He's going to grab either my pants or my belt all the way behind and under my butt area. This makes him easy to lift me up. Okay, he stacks me up on my neck. He puts his left arm down across my neck like a choke. Puts a little pressure there, makes me a little nervous, but really wants to pass, applying all of his weight, and he passes. Okay, in defense, assuming that André gets the first part of his technique achieved, two arms are inside, what I got to do is my right arm is going to control his arm by lifting his elbow, pushing upwards, and my hip moves the opposite direction at the exact same time. Okay, I have to make space for this foot to come through the holes. Why? My foot comes through, and I hook it around his body, keep a little bit of control. My left arm controls his arm, my right arm controls his leg, and at this point I can sweep or reverse or just work on different techniques that I like from there. Once again, André achieves his first part. Two arms come inside, he drops. Notice my right arm, my right hand pushed up on his elbow, my hip moved the opposite direction, and my foot comes through the hole and inside. My left arm is controlling his opposite elbow. I can come in the leg here for a reverse, or I can just continue my guard play or whatever I'd like from there. One more time in slow motion. Pushes my leg down, puts both arms inside, and he begins his pass. Okay, from this point here, it's time for me to escape before he passes. So my right hand comes up under his elbow, lifting him at the elbow, moving my hip very strongly simultaneously, you'll see. The opposite direction. This makes space for my foot to come around. I have to move my hip or my leg will not be able to come through this hole. My knees clears, my foot comes through. As it comes through, it comes and it hooks the body, nice and strong. It kind of takes away a little bit of his movement, and I grab his arm. My leg comes down a little bit, keeping a little bit of pressure there, kind of keeping him stuck there. My right hand can either grab the outside of the pants or the inside of the leg. I can reverse, I can sweep, or I can just continue my guard play from there. Let's see that fast. In this mounting position, what he's going to do is he's going to reach under my arm and control my belt with his right arm, and then sit out and control my arm with his left arm as well, pulling up tightly. Okay, his foot comes up and it steps over, hooking my leg and threading itself through as he climbs up to the mount. Once again, he reaches under my arm, controls my belt. Okay, he's across my head this time. Sits out. My arm is inside, so he grabs it and he pulls it real tight. Okay, then he steps over and he hooks my leg, pulls it towards him, starts threading his foot through, climbs up to the mount. In slow motion, he reaches through, he grabs the belt, gets a nice tight grip. Okay, at this point, he's going to sit out. Now notice my arm is on the inside, so what he does is he pulls on it, nice tight to his body, keeps control. And then he's going to step over and mount. Okay, so how he does it is he basically just lifts his foot, and instead of going over the body or to the floor, he hooks the foot and pulls both knees together and threads his foot inside, nice and tight, and starts sliding up to the mount. And there he has it. To defend this mount, my left arm hits across his body very hard as I bridge. My right arm controls his head. I bridge hard, and I'm on top. Once again, my left arm hits him across his body. Okay, this knocks him back a little bit. My right arm controls his head, pushing it downwards, opposite of my left arm, which is lifting. Okay? Then I bridge very hard, come across, and I'm on top. See that in slow motion. Notice as my left arm comes up, it hits in the chest. This really happens all at once. You know, my left arm, my right arm, and my bridge all happens at once. My right arm grabs his head and is pushing it downwards as my left arm is lifting upwards. So it's just kind of putting his body in a weird position here. And then I'm bridging at once with that. I make him lose his balance. I come up and I'm on top. Okay, the guy's got a strong grip here, so I'm trying to get this arm locked. So my hand comes through, grabs my own lapel, frees my hand closest to his head. Then my right leg comes through his arm towards his head. I take my left foot off, and I grab his head, and I'm going to roll back. As I roll back, I put it on the triangle. Push his arm across, nice and tight, grabbing his head, lifting my hips. Let's see that again. Once again, he's real strong. He's got a strong grip. I change my grip because I want to have my hand by his head free. So I grab my own lapel. My right foot comes through the hole. Take my left foot off. Grab his head so I can bring him with me as I roll up. And as I roll to my back, I put the triangle on, passing his arm across my body, grabbing his head, lifting my hips. Notice, it's lifting my hips. I'm blocking his arm in there, and so on. Okay, so again, I have to change my grip here because I want to have my left arm free to grab his head with. So I change it. I pull my lapel, I pass it to my right hand, get a nice tight grip on that. Okay, then I take my right leg, and I bring it through the hole towards his head. At this point, I'm still working on the arm. The guy's still defending. His grip's still nice and tight. I take my left foot off, and I grab his head, and I lift it up. This is so when I roll back, I bring him with me, nice and tight. Okay, I don't want to leave any space, no chances to escape. I lay back, and I put on the triangle. At this point, I want to make sure I have it, so my foot has to be deep. I have to push his arm all the way across my body. I move my body a little bit there, trying to get my position tighter. 2 hands on the head, lifting my hips, and there he goes. Once again, you see it's all lifting your hips. At the same time, pulling down on his head. Put his arm underneath, control the head, lift my hips, and there's a choke. Okay, we'll start this sitting up so you can see it clearly. To defend this arm lock, instead of using two hands together for the grip, what Andre's going to do, he's going to grab his own lapel, okay? Now we'll lay back down from here. And from this position, grabbing his own lapel, his left arm is now free to help him escape, okay? So he's going to start rocking his legs. As he rocks his legs, he's going to twist it on the last one, controlling my leg, and coming up. Okay, at this point, his arm comes through the hole and over both legs, grabbing my lapel. His elbow comes down, keeping it tight, and he makes small jerks, pulls his right arm out, reaches around my head, and walks around and passes the guard. Once again. So he's grabbing his own lapel instead of his hand. He's going to have to use his left hand to control my leg, keeping it down tight. As he rocks his leg, he's going to do like a little twist. This works really best when I'm trying to pull him sometimes. See, his arm comes through and around and over. He's still holding his lapel as he holds mine as well. Pulls his arm out, comes under my head, controls my legs, passes the guard. Okay, once again, we're setting up so you can see the position. So instead of grabbing his own hand, he passes it to his lapel. Get a nice tight grip on there. This frees up his left hand to help him escape with, okay, instead of just sit there and hold on. We lay back down from here. It's important to understand that when I'm pulling, trying to free his arm, and he uses his momentum to come up, it's not so hard to make the guy come up sometimes. You know, so you want to use it kind of simultaneously. As I try to pull, Andre rocks his body, and he twists his leg as he rocks, and we both go up. At this point, there's still danger of an arm lock, but he's in a little better position. But once he takes his arm and he swims over my leg, and even then he grabs my lapel and brings his elbow downwards nice and tight, at this point, he's going to escape. It's hard for me to straighten my body out. He starts doing small jerks. He pulls his arm out, reaches around, and walks around, controlling my legs still, controlling my head, and ends up in a side control. The Ezekiel choke can be used from many positions. Here it is from the back. So I'm trying to get the choke. I can't quite get deep enough to get the rear naked because he's controlling my arm. So I grab my own sleeve, and I come behind his head with my hand, and I just push away. Straighten both arms out. And there it is. Once again, I'm grabbing my own sleeve, right in the hole there, and coming behind his head, straightening both arms out, which will put in the pressure. So he pulls my arms down. I can't quite get myself where I want to get for a rear naked. So I grab my sleeve, put my hand behind his head, and apply the Ezekiel. Grabbing my sleeve, then going behind and straightening both arms out. Once again, he's controlling my arms. Notice how I go inside between both of us. I just straighten my arms out like a scissors, just straightening them both out. I don't have to push against his head. I don't have to grab my own arm. I just straighten them both out. Okay, in slow motion, see I'm behind his head here. I'm just straightening both arms out, pushing away, and that's the choke. A lot of times people think they have to go behind the guy's head and grab their own arm or something, and really all you really need to do is just straighten your arms out like you're kind of pointing forward, push them away a little bit, and then you choke, just like that. So just straightening my arm out, pushing away. So I'm coming in, under the neck. He grabs my arm to defend. Can't get it as deep as I'd like. So I grab my own sleeve. I come behind his head, and I extend my arms. And that's the choke. From behind. And applying the Ezekiel choke. two techniques in one here. The first one's called the clock. As I walk around, I choke. Okay, the defense here is this. I reach under his arm, he reaches his arm around and gets my arm in a wing lock, brings his knee under, rolls me, and pulls his lapel free. Once again, the clock technique is this. Grabbing his wrist, grabbing his lapel, walking around sideways, straightening my arm until it gets tight enough and it chokes. In defense, I reach inside, and he reaches around, controlling my elbow, nice and tight, and my arm, brings his knee in, rolls, and right away pulls his lapel free. I reach in for the clock, grabbing his wrist, reaching under his neck, grabbing his lapel. I cross-eyed, start walking around sideways, straightening my arm out until it chokes. It's a very good choke. And defense, once again, as I reach my arm inside, right away he's going to get it in a wing lock. He reaches over my arm, controlling my elbow, so controlling it nice and deep, controlling my other arm as well. Now watch his right leg kind of come underneath. That's to get his weight under me. It makes it easier to roll. He grabs his own lapel, he yanks it loose, and I'm in a side control. Okay, we're going to work on a technique right now for tool sharpening. It's going to be for the double leg takedown, but rather than do the full takedown, we're just going to do the initial part of it and the lift. Okay, the drill looks like this. Across the mat. First, I take one step in. I'm going to leave my foot where it is, and my knee's going to hit the floor. Keep my neck in, my hands in. My next foot comes here, I clench tight, and I lift. And drop them again. And then I continue again. Okay, like this it looks. Okay, let's try it. Okay, this tool sharpening technique basically just helps you learn the arm bar and helps you move quicker and faster. As soon as a situation happens, you jump on it right away so you can get it quick. It's a coordination drill, okay? And it also is good for your abs and helps you build that coordination as well. Okay, so Andre's controlling my sleeve, okay? He pulls me in nice and tight where he wants me, keeps his arm where he wants it, okay? And I'm just gonna let him do what he wants to do, and I'm gonna be a puppet for him so he can develop his technique. Here's how it goes. He goes one side slow, and stay. Okay, see his leg over my head? Each technique is done properly. Okay, he's controlling my head, then he switches to the other side. Okay, now a good point to understand here is he's not putting his foot on the floor every time, he's pushing off my body with his leg. He goes again slowly, pushes off with that leg, and he comes around here. He's keeping me deep, he's keeping my elbows in deep, keep my hands pulled high, and he goes again. Okay, now the way to do this technique and develop the speed is to keep doing it fast and in a nice flow. Okay, good. Great. Wonderful. Let's try it. Okay, Igor Zinoviev's here to help us out with another technique. This one's called a jumping armbar.
Okay, make sure you got the same grip in the top, in the arm, and the locked. That's the guy so strong. You put your arm all over here. Don't push you. Cross the legs. Jump in. Yeah, I'm locked.
Okay, this is Nick Blumgren from One Kicks Gym. He's a good friend of mine. He's also my boxing trainer. He's been training me for a while, and he's going to help us with the strategy for today.
All right, what we're trying to train John to do here is we want to find out what type of fighter is going to be coming at us. So like the first type of fighter may be an over-hyper fighter, so you know that he's going to be coming out quickly. So we have to prepare for that by watching his action before the bell starts or before the round starts. For instance, the hyper fighter will be jumping around a lot so that you can kind of expect him to come out fast. The other type of fighter is a very relaxed fighter. A relaxed fighter is so relaxed in the corner that you know that you don't have to rush out and meet him. So you can relax as you come out and figure out your strategy to meet him. The third type of fighter we're looking at is kind of a set fighter, one who dashes out of the corner. He's going to get down in like almost a sprint position and run at you quickly. To become a completed fighter, you must train against all these three different styles of coming at you. Whether a guy's running at you, whether he's meeting you halfway as a very relaxed fighter, or whether he's dashing out of the corner. You need to know when to sidestep, when not to step, when to move back. You have to practice against all three styles to become a complete fighter.